There's something nobody talks about. The moment when you're drowning, completely falling apart, and instead of reaching for someone's hand, you pull every single person away from you. Not because you don't care about them, not because you're angry, but because something deep inside you, something you can't even explain, makes you go completely quiet. You stop answering texts. You say you're fine when you're not. You convince yourself you're better off alone, even when alone feels like the loneliest place on earth. If you've ever done this, if you've ever pushed people away exactly when you needed them most, this video is specifically for you. And by the end of it, you're going to understand something about yourself that's going to change the way you see everything. Here's the thing. From the outside, this looks like strength. You don't complain. You don't burden people. You handle it. But that's not strength. That's a survival strategy. And the difference matters more than you think. Psychologists call this emotional withdrawal, and it's one of the most misunderstood patterns in human behavior. Most people who do this aren't cold. They're not antisocial. They're not dramatic. They are people who, somewhere along the way, learned that needing others was dangerous, that asking for help made things worse, that the people who were supposed to show up didn't. And so the nervous system built a wall, a very convincing, very painful wall. And now, every time life gets heavy, that wall goes up automatically, before you even realize it's happening. To understand why you do this, we have to go back. Not to blame anyone, but to understand the wiring. Attachment theory, one of the most foundational frameworks in psychology, tells us that the way we learn to connect with caregivers in early childhood becomes the template for every relationship we have as an adult. If you grew up in a home where your emotional needs were consistently dismissed, minimized, or met with frustration, your developing brain reached a very logical conclusion. Emotions are a problem. Needing people is a weakness. Handle it yourself. Psychologist John Bowlby spent decades studying this, and what he found was staggering. Children who don't get consistent emotional attunement don't just become sad. They develop what's called avoidant attachment. They literally learn to suppress their own internal distress signals. And here's the terrifying part. It works. In childhood, shutting down helps you survive an environment that can't meet your needs. But in adulthood, that same strategy starts destroying the very relationships you desperately need. When you're in pain and you feel that urge to disappear, to cancel plans, to stop responding, to tell everyone you're fine, that is not a character flaw. That is your nervous system doing exactly what it was trained to do. It's going into a state that researchers call the freeze and withdraw response. Think of it like this. Your brain, in that moment, genuinely believes that isolation is safer than vulnerability. It has years of evidence to back that up. Every time you opened up and got hurt, every time you asked for help and were made to feel like a burden, every time you cried and someone told you to stop, your brain filed all of that away. And now, when the pain gets intense enough, it pulls up that old file and says, "Do you remember what happened last time?" Shut it down. Pull back. Handle it alone. You're not being irrational. You're being exactly what your past trained you to be. But here's where it gets painful, and I need you to really sit with this. The very mechanism designed to protect you from pain is the mechanism that keeps creating it. Because when you withdraw, people don't usually chase you. Life gets busy. They assume you need space. Some of them eventually stop trying. And then you look around and feel utterly alone, and some part of you whispers, "See? Nobody really cares." But that's not what happened. What happened is that your protective behavior created the exact outcome you were most afraid of. Psychologists call this a self-fulfilling prophecy, and it is one of the cruelest loops in human psychology. You push people away because you're afraid of being abandoned. And in pushing them away, you create the abandonment. Not because you're broken, but because no one ever showed you a different way. So here is where I want to stop and shift something for you. Because this isn't a video about what's wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with you. What happened is that a very intelligent part of you built a coping strategy that made complete sense for the environment you were in. The problem isn't the strategy. It's that you're still using a childhood blueprint in an adult world. And the most important thing you can do right now is recognize that you have a choice. Not an easy choice. Not a comfortable one. But a real one. Research from Dr. Ainsworth shows that attachment patterns, no matter how deeply ingrained, are not permanent. Adults can and do develop what's called earned secure attachment, meaning you can literally rewire the way your nervous system responds to vulnerability, not by forcing yourself to open up overnight, but by slowly, deliberately choosing one safe person and taking one small risk at a time. Healing from this pattern doesn't look like suddenly becoming an open book. It doesn't look like crying on someone's shoulder the first time life gets hard. It looks like texting someone and saying, "I'm struggling a little today," instead of disappearing completely. It looks like noticing the urge to shut down and pausing for just 5 seconds before you act on it. It looks like identifying one person in your life, just one, who has proven over time that they are safe, and practicing the tiniest act of honesty with them. Neurologically, every time you tolerate vulnerability without catastrophe, you are laying down new neural pathways. You are teaching your brain new evidence. You are rewriting the file that says people can't be trusted with your pain. This is not therapy speak. This is actual neuroscience. The brain's plasticity means that new experiences, repeated consistently, create new emotional defaults. One of the deepest fears underneath this pattern is the belief that if people really knew what you were going through, the real depth of it, they would leave. That you are too much, that your pain is too heavy, that you will exhaust them. And I want to say something directly to that belief. It is a lie your wounds taught you. The people who love you, the right people, are not fragile. They are not waiting for a reason to go. They are, right now, probably wondering why you seem so far away. They are probably feeling shut out and not knowing why. And they would show up for you if you gave them the chance. The version of you that believes it's better to suffer alone was created by people who couldn't handle your emotions. But that version of you is not the truth of who you are. Here's what I want you to take away from this. The fact that you push people away when you're hurting is not evidence that you are broken. It is evidence that you survived something. You learned to protect yourself in the only way you knew how. But protection and connection cannot live in the same space at the same time. And at some point, you have to decide which one matters more. You have already done the hard part. You've survived. Now comes the even braver part, letting someone in while you're still healing. Because the loneliness you feel right now, it is not your destiny. It is just a pattern, and patterns can be changed. The question is not whether you deserve connection. You do. The question is whether you're willing to take one small step toward it today. And if you're someone who not only pushes people away, but also carries everyone else's pain while hiding your own, the next video is going to explain exactly why you do that and why it is quietly costing you more than you realize.